It's smaller than a grain of sand, and it looks like a chubby, clumsy little bear.
But it may be the most indestructible creature that ever existed on planet Earth. And what it does to survive defies everything we think we know about life.
Things you've never seen now revealed.
This is World in Detail.
The vacuum of space, with no air and no protection. Radiation 1,000 times stronger than what would kill a human being. Cold close to absolute zero, the coldest temperature in the entire universe. Heat above 150 degrees. Pressure 6 times greater than the deepest point of the ocean. Now, what if I told you that there is a single animal on Earth that can survive all of these, every single one of them, and that this animal isn't some giant monster, but a chubby, clumsy little creature, smaller than a grain of sand, that looks like a tiny bear, and waddles through the moss in your garden? Its name is the tardigrade, and it may be the most indestructible living thing that has ever existed on this planet.
This tiny creature, often called the water bear or the moss piglet, is only about 0.5 millimeter long, with 8 stubby legs and clawed little toes. It lives in moss, in lichen, in fresh water, and in some of the harshest places on the planet. And it has been here for an astonishingly long time, at least 600 million years. To put that in perspective, the tardigrade was already alive long before the dinosaurs, and it has survived all 5 of Earth's great mass extinction events, the same catastrophes that wiped out most of the life that ever existed. Whatever ended those worlds, the water bear simply shrugged it off and kept on going. And in 2007, it earned its most famous title of all.
Because in that year, scientists did something bold. They placed living tardigrades on the outside of a satellite and launched them into orbit, exposing them directly to the open vacuum of space. No air, no shielding, nothing. And when they came back, the tardigrades were alive. They became the first animals in history known to survive direct exposure to space, and it doesn't stop there. Scientists have even fired tardigrades out of a kind of gun at speeds near 900 meters per second, and up to a certain point of impact, they survived that too. So the obvious question becomes, how? How does a soft, microscopic little animal do things that no machine, no other creature, almost nothing on Earth can do?
The secret has a name: cryptobiosis. When the environment becomes too dangerous, when the water runs out, or the cold or heat becomes too much, the tardigrade does something astonishing. It pushes more than 95% of all the water out of its own body. It dries itself out almost completely. It pulls its 8 legs and its head inward and curls into a tight little ball that scientists call a ton. And in that state, it essentially switches off the process of being alive. Its metabolism, every process that keeps it going, drops to around 0.01% of normal. It stops looking like a living animal at all. It looks like a dead speck of dust. And it can stay that way, in this suspended death, for a very, very long time.
A tardigrade normally lives about 2 years, but in cryptobiosis, it can last for decades, 30 years or more, waiting patiently. And when conditions improve, when a single drop of water returns, it rehydrates and comes back to life within minutes to hours. It literally resurrects. And this is where the story stops being a curiosity about a cute little animal and starts becoming something that could change human life itself, because of one secret weapon hidden inside its body. But first, you need to see the shield that makes all of this possible.
The tardigrade carries inside its body an entire arsenal of protection that took science years to understand. First, it produces a special sugar called trehalose, which works like an antifreeze and like a kind of protective glass. When the animal dries out, this sugar wraps around and shields the delicate structures inside its body, keeping them from shattering. But the crown jewel is a protein that only the tardigrade has, called SUP, short for damage suppressor. And what it does is almost unbelievable. It wraps around the tardigrade's DNA like a physical shield, protecting its genetic code from being broken apart by radiation. That is why radiation, which destroys the DNA of almost every other living thing, simply cannot destroy the water bears.
Now stop and think about what that means for us. Radiation is one of the greatest enemies of human life. It's what makes a long journey through space, like a trip to Mars, so dangerous for astronauts. It's what damages the healthy cells of a patient during cancer treatment. And suddenly nature shows us a tiny animal that solved this exact problem millions of years ago with a single protein. It's no wonder scientists became obsessed with the tardigrade. If we could take this superpower of its and give it to human beings, we could protect astronauts on deep space missions, help shield patients during treatment, and survive things that today would simply kill us.
And that is exactly what is already beginning to happen in the laboratory. Scientists managed to take the gene that produces that D-sup protein from the tardigrade and insert it into human cells. And the result was that those human cells became more resistant to radiation. Read that again. A small piece of the water bear's superpower working inside a human cell. This is still frontier science in its earliest days, with a great deal left to study and many questions to answer. But the direction is breathtaking. The most indestructible animal on Earth may one day teach us to survive what is, today, impossible. We have always looked up to the stars, searching for answers. And some of them may be hiding in an invisible little creature, living in the moss in your own backyard.
But before you start picturing the tardigrade as some immortal, invincible god, let me be fair to the truth, because nature is always more subtle than it first appears. The tardigrade is not immortal. In its normal, active state, it is soft and fragile, and it has plenty of predators like amoebas and tiny worms that happily eat it. And even in that little ton ball, the protection is not infinite. If it stays exposed to extreme conditions for too long, it eventually dies. Its resilience is astonishing, but it has a limit. In other words, it isn't truly indestructible. It is the closest thing to it that life has ever created. And in a way that's even more beautiful, because it isn't magic. It's biology, it's evolution, it's nature solving an impossible problem over millions of years.
So the next time you look at a patch of green moss on a wall, on a stone, or on the floor of your garden, remember that there, invisible to your eyes, an army of water bears is almost certainly living. Creatures that have watched 5 mass extinctions sweep across the Earth. That would survive things that would erase all of humanity. And that may carry inside their microscopic bodies the secret to protecting our own species. Nature hides its greatest wonders in the smallest of places. All we have to do is be curious enough to look. And that is why we look at the world and its most incredible creatures in detail.
Now tell me in the comments, had you ever heard of the tardigrade before? And if you could have one of its superpowers, which would it be? Surviving the cold, the radiation, or coming back to life after years? Write it down. I read them all. If this video surprised you, leave a like, subscribe, and share it with that curious friend of yours. It's what helps this channel grow. And don't miss the next episode, where we dive deep into how scientists are putting the tardigrade's power inside human cells. See you there, here in World in Detail.